My name is Human. You guys. And I'm the creative director at this hotel. And for those of you who it's your first time here tonight, welcome, because this is our 2-year anniversary show. And it's a real honor to be doing this with the country of Mongolia, but more about that later. The Park James is a boutique hotel. We're the #1 boutique hotel in the Silicon Valley, mostly Menlo Park. And this is our speaker series event. And if you haven't signed up and you don't know about it, come find me at the end. I'll put you on the list. We have a really great community. Obviously, so much of this is because of the Silicon Zombies and this guy, Nick. We started this 2 years ago, and it's just grown every single week, every single month. And it took a lot of people to put this together. You're going to hear more from her later, but Dulo, can you wave? Dulo's the reason tonight is happening, everyone. We have a lot of partners that are responsible for tonight, and I'd like to bring one of them up so that he can tell you about his organization. David Layton, if you could come up. David oversees a really remarkable online organization. He's going to tell you 1 minute of it. He sent out 10,000 emails about this event.
Thank you, Human. We are offline as well. You know, we started Witty, WITI.com in '89 when there certainly was, people were just starting to use email. And we see what's happened, what Nick and Human have built, and how we can just bring the world together. And now with AI, really help everybody get to what they want and get to the next level. So I appreciate it.
So you guys, if you want to know more about Witty, what does Witty stand for?
Workforce, innovation, trust, and influence. Come
find David at the end, and he's the ultimate connector. Thank you for being here, David. Appreciate it, brother. Real quickly, we have a new sales director. I've had 50 people come up to us tonight and say, how can I have an event here? What can I do here? Christy, can you come up here just so people can see who you are? So this is the person you want to talk to. This is our new sales director, Christy. And if you ever want to do an event here, she will take good care of you. She really cares about nonprofits. I do. And the venture world. Everybody. Thank you, Christy. All right, listen. Is there anything else we need to mention?
Well, I would love to do a quick shout out for some of the folks so if you have a business or if you have an announcement, in fact, I'm going to pick on you for a quick second because you came all the way for us. So please go ahead.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Nick. I really appreciate it. My name is Veronica Taylor, and I am the founder of Life Leaders Coaching, and I'm on a huge mission to inspire leaders, influencers to become the ultimate leaders of their life, not just in business, meaning home, your one-on-one relationships. And if you are into that mission, please come find me. I'd really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Want to do a 10, 15, 20-second show?
No, that's enough. All right, so
we'll get them later.
So listen, Nick, do you want to do the wave thing real quick? We make really cool videos of our events, and Nick has this idea for our video. Tell everybody what you want him to do.
All right, pretend this is like a baseball stadium. I'm going to point over here, all the way to here. We're going to do a big wave. Everyone's going to bring their arms up. Yeah.
All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Did you get it? All right, perfect. All right, last thing. When Nick does the intro for the show, he says, "From the Bay," and then you guys have to say, "and beyond." All right? So let's practice it. From the Bay. And beyond. All right, Nick, it's all you.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Silicon Zombies. I don't think this is working.
All right, hold on. We're going to start all over. That was take 1.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Silicon Zombies, where we bring you the best brains in the Bay and beyond. We get to demystify emerging technology with all sorts of delicious brains. And Jalsa and ConGen, we're so excited to have you both here. really today is about bringing people together and telling wonderful stories. So thank you all for being here. We are celebrating our 2-year anniversary. So shout out to the Park Jam. Everybody here. And also thankful for our friends and sponsors, Nacodex. So if you're building a product, if you're designing a product and you need augmented staff, these guys are based in Mexico. They've done amazing work for our community, and I highly recommend that you check them out. That's NECODEX, and we'll include their link in the show notes below. Just guys, I'm so grateful. If we think about like a couple years ago, we were doing this from my living room with grandma watching, and like now we're in over 80 countries, and that's largely because of Hooman. So I want to give a shout out for Hooman here.
All right, well, to do this event properly, I do have another right-hand person, and her name is Udra. Udra, come up here. I need you to help me with everything that's about to happen. Please introduce our musician who's going to kick us off tonight.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Any Mongolian event in Mongolia, we start with music of a very special instrument called horse-headed fiddle, and we have one of our best performers who, play this incredible musical instrument, which is listed on the UNESCO World Heritage list. So we welcome Mr. Ninja.
Udra, I need you again. Somebody's phone is ringing. There she goes. All right. Tell us about our dancers.
Okay, so we have two very talented young Mongolian girls who is going to be performing traditional Mongolian dance. I want to introduce the teacher, Amona, and then she can also tell us about the specific dance they will be performing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amuna Zolku, and I am a traditional Mongolian dancer. And these are my two students. I have about 15 students now. And the dance that they will be showing you is called Joragilten, which is based on the ethnic minority called Hotten. In Mongolia, there are multiple ethnic minorities, and there are different dances based on each ethnic minority. And this one is based on the Hotten ethnic minority, and the dance is called Joragilten. Please enjoy.
We will be seeing more of them at the end of the show. All right, everyone, we're going to start our speaker series. We have two amazing guests, and they're going to introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Consul General Mugi. Tell everyone your real name, because it's hard for me to pronounce, and then give everyone a little bit of your background.
Good evening, everyone, and I really appreciate all of you who come here, and also thank for the Khuumii and Jalsa and Dulo and everyone who has organized this event. My name is Munkhbaatar. It's a little bit difficult. The short name is Mugi, and I am the Consul General. I have been here as 1.5 years, and I used to work Mongolia as, like I said, government official service for quite many years. Now I'm happy to be in San Francisco.
Thank you, Consul General. And then the man, the myth, the legend. This is the unofficial director of tourism for all of Mongolia. Jalsa, tell everyone who you are.
I think that was pretty good. Hi, everyone. Jalsa Urubshurow. I'm a Mongolian American. I was born in the first Mongolian community in America, and I'm CEO and founder of Nomadic Expeditions and the 3 Camel Lodge in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. And so Undra, who you saw, is also, I have to mention that she's president of our company, and she's a partner, and she's one of the guiding lights in the company. And Dulo is also a part of our amazing team. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalsa. All right, Nick's going to kick us off.
Think about Mongolia. It's known for its vast steppes, the Gobi Desert, the birthplace of Genghis Khan, which at one point spanned from Japan all across Europe. And probably a lot of these impacts in the history are still around. Help us understand and set the table for the history of Mongolia, if you would.
Well, obviously, everyone has heard of Chinggis Khan, as we call him, or Genghis Khan in Western terms, the largest contiguous empire in the history of the world. They actually never controlled Japan. There's an interesting tidbit. I was with a Japanese journalist yesterday, and I explained to him what the word kamikaze means. And so Kublai Khan, Chinggis Khan's grandson, moved the capital of the Mongol Empire to Beijing, what's now Beijing, during the Yuan dynasty. And twice he launched invasions against Japan after he'd conquered all of we know as Russia, China, India, Persia. Sorry, human. But so the first time was a 100-ship armada approximately with 20,000 troops. And they launched, and they almost made it all the way to the shores of Japan, and they were wiped out by a typhoon. And so Kublai, a stubborn Mongolian like he is, which I can identify with, he actually launched another invasion a decade later of 300 ships and nearly 100,000 warriors. And they almost made it to the shore. He tried doing it in the fall when he did it in the summer. I may have it backwards, but he was again wiped out by typhoon. So hence the Japanese gave it the name kamikaze, that saved them, the divine wind that saved them from Mongol invasions twice. So it had nothing to do with World War II. So the empire was vast, but Chinggis Khan, I grew up in the Western educational system because I grew up in the first Mongolian community in America. I'm the only one born in my family in the United States. And it's funny, I grew up reading about studying Julius Caesar, and he was a great conqueror, and Chinggis Khan was a barbarian. Yet, if there's some great books, Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World by Jack Weatherford. He actually built more physical bridges over rivers than any emperor in the history of the world. He established trade routes, the rule of law. He also practiced freedom of religion. And the Mongol Empire lasted at its strength and full power for 300 years. So his grandson Kublai Khan was instrumental. And if there's any people of Italian-American descent here, we go way back. He allowed this Venetian trader named Marco Polo to come and stay for about 25 years. That's pretty hospitable for a house guest, So, so Jack Weatherford went on to write a book about the women of Mongolia, the queens of Mongolia, and how they played an instrumental role in the spread of the empire. Because the sons were there were some things that were left to be desired, but like in many societies, his daughters and the women were stronger. So that's the queens of Mongolia. But then he also went on, because of the practice of freedom of religion, to write a book called Chinggis Khan and the Quest for God. because practicing freedom of religion allowed the spread of missionaries that were protected and safe. So he actually Kublai may have had, and the Mongols may have had more to do with the spread of Christianity through Asia than the missionaries themselves.
But there was a lot of shamanism associated as well, right?
That's why he practiced freedom. A bull or shamanism, worshiping the blue skies, the
land of the eternal blue sky.
It is, with 290 sunny days a year.
So you did take a shot at Iran, Persia. So I was born in Iran, and there's a few of us from Iran here. We're friends. I'm just kidding. And there isn't a Persian on this earth that doesn't respect the Mongolians, the Mongol culture. Like you guys, the way you Genghis Khan and the Mongolians took over the world is legendary from where I'm from. I want you to talk about like how the influence of Mongolia throughout the world and the DNA of Mongolia throughout the world. And don't hold back, because what you told me on our prep call was mind-blowing.
Hello. The single man's life he built 3 times bigger than Roman Empire, and the empire from Korea until Hungary. And surprising how he built this big empire. Maybe just my view. He is the born charismatic leader first. Secondly, he built great team for loyal team. All the generals were loyal for him. And also under his leadership, there was no bureaucratic. When he gave order, just implement. He made this system. Then as Mongolians, we are nomadics, just moving and fighting, good warrior tactics. That's why we built this big empire, in my view. This is Jalsa mentioned from Korea until Hungary. That time, this is almost 1,000 years ago. Many countries, they don't know which one next country, next culture. But he built this big empire. That's why trade and people and missionaries, they safely go through whole this Eurasia. That's why he made this Pax Mongolia, that was built big peace in this region. That's why all the trades go through safely. And also he built the post office. Each 20 miles, there's offices. That's why the messenger come. The next post office usually have 2 horses ready. That's why they like through messenger messages go through so fast from Beijing or from Mongolia to Russia or whatever, and on the 10 days, whatever, like now in Silicon Valley, we have internet. Yeah? He built all this mobile, like this. He built this great networking network. Also, in this case, Mongolians were nomadics. Because of nomadics, we believe shamanism. We worship our sky or water or river, or because of depending on our herds. That's why the Genghis Khan, his descendants, give the freedom of religion. We didn't push our religion to all the nations. Respect them for their region. That's why he's made the peace for them. And also because of Mongolian conquerors, actually the Russian one country, that time was Kiev Kingdom, Moscow, Rostov. Under this Mongolian invention, the Russian became also the one united country. In the end, remember this, the Horizon, Persia, Baghdad, there was the group of people is called assassins. From 11th to 13th century, there was so terrified group of people. But Mongolians come and destroy, denied all like these people. That's what under Mongolian occupation built a big empire. Eurasia has a peace almost 200 years. That was the big impact Mongolians have all the nations.
Was the Great Wall of China built for what reason?
We are nomadics. A Chinese culture, this is settled civilization. There's, maybe it looks like Chinese, but Chinese culture is completely different. There's a farmer culture. They're forever neighbors for harvesting their rice. The nomadics, we're just moving around. We don't build anything. That's why the Mongolians will just come and occupy China. That's what 2,000 years ago, Chinese built this great wall for 100 years for occupation, protecting from Mongolians, nomadic peoples.
You hear that? The Great Wall of China was built to keep the Mongolians out. Did you turn off your mic?
there's more to the story because it obviously, as Consul General said, that it was an agrarian society and a nomadic pastoral society. So the wall was built for transportation as much as it was for a barrier, because it obviously didn't work because the Yuan dynasty lasted for 300 years at its height, longer than the United States has been in existence. So
when the Mongolians took over the world, they fertilized the world as well. So can you have to talk about the DNA of the Mongolians.
So there's many great stories about Chinggis Khan and his virility, but no, that's not so Spencer Wells started the Human Genome Project with National Geographic, and he did determine, he visited Mongolia, I met him there, and he came to the Gobi Desert, and he told me that 73% of all European males, because it's easier to test males' DNA, have some Mongolian DNA in them. So there's another phenomenon. I've been privileged to be involved in promoting Mongolia for over 35 years since it became a democracy in 1990. And, I've traveled and I've become someone, if you do anything for 35 years, you better get halfway decent at it. So I've been recognized as somewhat of an expert on sustainable tourism, which encompasses many things, facets from protecting our environment and wildlife to preserving culture and sharing and having great community benefit. So I've been able to go visit different places, Africa, Zimbabwe, the Arctic Circle, where the Inuit tribes are. And that was probably my favorite, though it was February and it was minus 68. So I went to visit a small community, a community tourism project that was in the Hudson Bay on right next to the Arctic Circle. And this approximately 380 people, and these Inuit children, I got to lecture them in their school, which was a one-room schoolhouse almost. And it was from grade 6 through high school. When I told them they were descendants of ancient Mongol tribes, nomadic tribes that came across the Bering Strait in search of game, and they said, we're Inuits, very proud trapping culture, fur trade. And then I started to tell them the story. And then the one thing I said to them, they were pretty, all the way to teenagers, I said, were your asses blue when you were born? And they said, yes, that's the blue bum, because we were in Canada. And I said, well, let's look it up. And we looked up on the internet, and most anthropologists and biologists call it the Mongolian spot. So you should look it up. So when Mongolian babies, or some Hungarians and French as well, are born, their bottoms are blue, and it sometimes will extend up to their shoulder blades, but it'll fade away when they're 1 or 2. It's a genetic anomaly. And so it exists all the way down to Central America, Guatemala. So Native Americans, every Sioux Apache I've ever met knew about it. They call it the blue spot, but scientists call it Mongolian spot.
If you see Jalsa's LinkedIn, it's him on a motorcycle. He looks so cool. And in the background, there's people racing on horses as well, because horses are a rich tradition in conjunction with wrestling and also archery. So maybe help us understand what are some of the lasting cultural effects that are still around today.
Yeah, still now Mongolian territory is 19th largest territory in the world, but we are only 3.4 million people, and still half of the people live in the nomadic life. There we have the semi-desert and hilly and mountain and sand. Still people are living in this area with the herds. Every family have 50 to 300 horses, 1,000 sheep moving around all through years. That's why still be keeping out this nomadic culture. That's why you standing on the saddle, running against the wind, and fielding and singing. This is kind of Mongolian life. Is still keeping the horses very strong, connected to our culture. Even though we have this national celebration, we have the 6 years different of horses racing. And from 4 to 10 years old boys and girls are jockeys. They're running horses. 100 horses running. Yeah, this is still the Mongolia is really. That's why the Mongolian horse looks small but is strong. That's why they come to Hungary until. Yeah, this is they still strongly connected to Mongolian. It's still nomadic. Very few country. It's still nomadic culture, moving around, feeling with the nature, feeling this wind and mountain. And there is 100 kilometers. You will see no one. There's only 2 times, before noon, after noon. You don't have 10 past 10. No, there is no time. Only before noon, after noon. There's no limit with space. Yeah, you can ride camel and yak or horse and whatever you have. This is kind of still culture and traditional way we still exist in Mongolia.
So let's recap where we are right now. Did you want to say something?
Well,
okay,
if you consider that Mongolia has a population of, we said, 3.4 million people, and 1.8 live in the capital. And it's, I love to tell Texans it's twice the size of Texas, and it's about 1,500 miles long. So once you leave the capital, you're transported back in time because they have the largest nomadic population and culture still that exists on that's horse-based. And they've been resilient. Mining, it's rich in minerals. So yes, mining is a big part of the economy. But our focus in Consul General, though we have to have all those products and we have to have that export and that trade, he grew up in the nomadic culture, his aunts and uncles, his family's in the countryside. It's every Mongolian. And there's an unwritten code of hospitality that permeates. In a nomadic culture, the Bedouins have it. You never turn anyone away from food or shelter.
Even for 25 years?
Well, if you're not a couch potato, you can hang out. Marco Polo, you know. So he was allowed to stay, and he got to stay in the high rent district in the capital. So, you know, the reality is this, that you'll feel that if you come and visit Mongolia. You can visit if you see, we call them gers, the Western term has become yurt. So that in itself is an amazing structure. But if you're traveling and you see a ger, you can stop there. They'll never turn you away from food or shelter because their child tomorrow is out on the steppe and they know that they're safe if they find another Mongolian family. So it permeates society.
So 73% of Europeans have Mongolian DNA. Basically, every Native American tribe has. When he said Inuits, you know, that's the PC term. We all know them as Eskimos. They also have Mongolian DNA.
So Eskimo is a negative term in Canadian,
right?
Canadian Northwest and Arctic. So
be respectful here.
I am respectful.
So and then Eskimos, Athabascans,
and 20% of Iranians have Mongolian DNA. So it's everywhere. All right. Let's talk about Mongolia today. You oversee, you help oversee tourism. If somebody comes to Mongolia today, what are they going to expect? What can they see? What are they going to do?
You know, this question is often asked. It's just so multifaceted. So you have an opportunity to visit this. First of all, visit a wide, untouched horizon, 3 major ecosystems, the most sparsely populated country in the world, especially since we found out that Greenland's only 2/3 of the size we thought it was. So it was right up there before that. But the reality is that Mongolia has so many things. That nomadic culture, you have an opportunity to go back in time when 22% of the population still lives on horseback, herding their sheep and goats and camels and horses. It's amazing. So you leave that capital with 1.8 million people and drive an hour and you go back in time. It's just, and in your vast horizons, we have a saying, only in wide open spaces do you truly have vision. And this is really, it's like looking at the Pacific without the water. So it's, it's a wide horizon. It's just endless. So that's part of it. The culture is part of it, the people. And, and also even in the capital, the city of Ulaanbaatar, 1990 became a democracy. So in 35 years, you're not going to believe the progress they made. So you've got, skyscrapers, cashmere, you've got products, but that they all affect different things, but the variety of things, it's a paleontological mecca. We've done expeditions. We've worked with the American Museum of Natural History, Museum of the Rockies, the Royal Tyrrell in British Columbia, because I like dinosaurs since I was a kid. But anyway, but it's just multifaceted. You guys have Russia to the north. You have China to the south. Those are your 2 neighbors. That's correct. Is everyone playing well in the sandbox? Everyone getting along?
Yeah, this is our 4 neighbors. And until 1990, Mongolia had under socialist system. After the system closed down, it became a democratic country. If you compare it to Central Asian countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, they have the authoritarian regime. That's why Mongolia tried to keep democracy between Russia and China and try to survive. They have to make right balances. And that's why, because of democracy, each time we have election and choosing the people have the right of speech and freedom of religion. And this is also one of the disadvantages Mongolian try to develop. But the Russia and China, and still depend on Russia, the fuel, and China's consumer market. And Mongolia, we are rich of natural resources, but most of them export to China.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. So in America, our world news is 50% Gaza, 50% Ukraine. Nothing else seems to exist outside of those 2 entities. But Mongolia, from what I've read, has more minerals and more metals than Ukraine. And everything we're hearing is we need the metals of Ukraine. So what's the relationship between America and Mongolia?
Honestly, there's the democracy is connecting between us. Educational sector, we have good relation. But economically, honestly, we don't have so much interest. And Mongolia reach of the natural earth rare metals. The south of Mongolia, we have a lot of deposits. But if technology requires this kind of metals in the future, we have the reach of those metals. And
Jalsa, you mentioned you're a fan of dinosaurs. It sounds like fossils were like an important element of that. What drives your interest, and help us understand a little bit of the history of Mongolia?
Well, not just my interest, but it is a mecca because some of the greatest, most paleontologists agree, the greatest dinosaur fossil ever discovered was the fighting dinosaurs. It was a Polish-Russian joint venture with Mongolians. In 1971, they discovered a velociraptor biting a proceratops. They were engaged in battle and they were caught in a mudslide. 70 years later, the American Museum of Natural History helped them restore this fossil. And, and of course, there's the famous story of the flaming cliffs. You'll see it there, and it's in the background behind those children there who are singing out in the countryside. So Roy Chapman Andrews was a zoologist, and he was a globetrotter, and he was he was in charge of the zoology department at American Museum of Natural History, and did the first motor vehicle expedition in Asia. 7 Dodge trucks and cars, and drove from Beijing over 280 miles north into Mongolia to search for the origins of man. He was also an archaeologist. He found no specimens of mankind, but he found 2,000 species of various plant and animal life. So on the way back, and they filmed it, they had thousands and thousands of feet of film footage. But on the way back, as he was returning to Beijing, he saw the flaming cliffs. As the sun set, they became brighter orange. They're more orange in that picture than they are here. It's the same sand formation. And so they made camp there, and then they went on the cliffs and tented the second night there. And someone, Mother Nature called, went out and found the first nest of dinosaur eggs. But paleontological theory switched 180 degrees because he found next to it, and they used to think of dinosaurs like reptilian and cold-blooded, so he found this nest of eggs, and next to it, he found this fossil, and they thought it was a reptile stealing the eggs, so he named it Oviraptor, Latin for stealer of eggs. 70 years later, Mike Novacek, Mark Norell from the American Museum discovered a perfect cross-section of an embryo of the same egg and found out it was the same species. And they realized that dinosaurs actually acted more like birds, nurturing their nests and hatching their young. And many species they've discovered remnants of what are feathers. So, and if you look, they changed all the exhibits in all of the natural history, including the American Museum. The T-Rex used to stand erect like a monster, and they realize now that they ran like birds across the ground. So if you watch Jurassic Park, they run the velociraptor, his tail is parallel with the ground, and that's the way a bird runs on the ground. The tail acts as ballast, keeps them balanced.
I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to open it up to the audience. So if you've ever had a question about Mongolia, this is your opportunity. Let's talk about this guy right here. What is he doing?
Well, he's posing for a picture. He's like Fabio. He's like the Fabio of the Kazakh eagle hunters in the West. So he's probably the most photographed Kazakh eagle hunter in the
So the you guys use eagles to hunt?
Well, not you guys. So the Kazakhs who live in western Bayanulgi is the westernmost province of Mongolia. They've been there for over 2 centuries. And they're the only culture that's trained eagles to hunt. I was with a falconer 3 days ago in Post Ranch Inn. So falconry is widespread. But a falcon weighs about 3 pounds, has a 3.5 to 4 foot wingspan. Depends on whether it's a peregrine, a saker. So an eagle, a golden eagle, can be about 15 pounds and a 7 foot wingspan. So what's happened is in Mongolia, this tradition was fading. So in '99, when I went out there to meet them, I searched for days when I got caught in a snowstorm. And so I couldn't find families. I found 2-3 families, and it had dwindled to only maybe 5 to 10 families in the West that had eagles and trained eagles. And, the Kazakh culture, they preserve their hunting instincts, and they release them back to the wild when they're 6 or 7 years old. But so I decided, and I had a few too many vodkas with the local Kazakhs, and we came up with the idea to start the Golden Eagle Festival to preserve the culture. People thought it was for tourism. Who would think? I was having enough trouble getting people to come to Mongolia, much less the westernmost province. But it took off, and it was just become the pride in that culture. It was disappeared in Kazakhstan during the Soviet purges, just like Genghis Khan for 70 years was forbidden to be respected, or his image. Now he's the most popular advertising image there is, and there's a Genghis Khan brand of everything. And so, but it survived and flourished. So the Golden Eagle Festival is a wonderful event.
All right, we're gonna open it up. All right, my buddy Joel.
Yes, very interesting. My question for you is, what were the 300 years of the Mongolian Empire and what caused its downfall? And also, you had mentioned you grew up in the first Mongolian community in the United States. Where is that?
Okay, I'll start with, well, the 3 centuries was essentially from the late 1200s until, I don't have the exact dates, maybe Mr. Consul General does, but that was when it was at its prime strength. The last direct descendants of Genghis Khan died. They were the Indian Moguls, one of the Indian Moguls in 1921, I think, the last direct blood descendant of Genghis Khan. So, they continued on. And he also married his daughters off and was very intelligent about that. He had daughters who were Muslim and daughters who were Buddhist. And so he was quite brilliant about that. So it wasn't the Brits that invented that, or the Europeans. He was.
And where was the first Mongol community in the United States?
In the most famous Howell Township, New Jersey, in Monmouth County. So I actually was the only one born there. You see, I come from a tribe of Mongols that came to be known as Kalmucks. But our ancestors in my tribe of Durbits, or Western Oirat Mongols, they originated, or during the empire, they were situated in what's now Xinjiang, China. But it used to be called Zungaria or Jungaria. Zungar means left hand, meaning the Western Mongols. All the old maps, British maps, European maps, referred to it as Jungaria, as opposed to Xinjiang. So that's where my ancestors came from. But in the 1600s, about 400,000 of them migrated 2,000 miles plus to where into the middle of Russia, where the Volga River and the Caspian Sea meet. So and they settled there, and they came to be known as Kalmucks because for 100 years they stayed there in peace, practicing Buddhism with their herds. And in 1721, half of them, 200,000, tried to go back to Zungaria, and most of them perished because Catherine the Great started to try to convert them to Russian Orthodox and interrupt their life.
Do you want to say something?
Just 2 points. Because of Genghis Khan, he built this big empire, divided for his 4 sons. This kingdom divided 4. Even though Chinese said Yuan dynasty, this is the Mongolian empire. And also this Altang, this is Russian, this is Mongolian. Also the Ilkhat, this Iran, Iraq, all this divided for his son. But what was the people have this kind of different understanding because they say Genghis Khan conquered and killed a lot of people. But what I see, this Mongolian nomadic, we are small culture. When we ruled big culture like Chinese culture, Muslim, Islamic culture, we just mixed after 50 or 100 years. We are just nomadic culture, small culture we were. And also this Mongolians, we are nomadics. We didn't have the written culture, books written. All the history about Genghis Khan written by historians who occupied by Mongols. That's why everyone said Mongolia is kind of things. But this is the reality, what I think.
Anyone? All right. By the way, this woman, Wendy, is the reason we're doing this. She's the one that does all this amazing work in Nepal. And because our event with Nepal went well, we thought the event with Mongolia would go well as well.
Wendy's also built over a dozen schools in Nepal. So thank you, Wendy, for your great work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support and the recognition. I mean, what you guys are doing is amazing with Silicon Zombies. Congratulations on 200, first and foremost. And thank you to Human for this incredible space. So being someone that is an education advocate and someone who works in poverty alleviation and believes in ending global poverty in the world, I'm curious to know what are some of the challenges with poverty in Mongolia? And do they suffer from multidimensional poverty? What is the poverty rate? And then in addition to that, the second question would be, what are the resources that Mongolia has to offer the world globally?
Yeah, it's the Mongolian. It's not like India or Pakistan. It's a little bit different. Only 3.4 million. We have 70, 80 million herds. Every day we eat meat. Yeah, every day we eat. But of course, economy is not doing well. Big country, so people living remote area have to bring all them services, education, health, and infrastructure. Of course, economies cost a lot for us. But I would say is we are highly depend on mining. Mostly this is exported to China. But for us, challenging us is still keeping the Mongolian culture remote area. All the Gobi or the mountain area, small town, you have to bring the education in schools. This is also one of the big challenge for us, is still keeping this education or health system for provide them. And we are used to the nomadic culture is not really require a lot of things. Yeah, we used to live this humble. This is also one of the advantages of Mongolians, I would say. Yeah.
So if I could add, for all of its sins, communism and the socialist central economy that they had for 70 years, they did pride themselves on education. So when I first visited, the first democratic prime minister asked me to come to Mongolia because I had the notoriety of employing more Mongolians than anyone in the Western Hemisphere, which was 8 in my construction company. So on that great reputation, I was able to go to Mongolia. But so even if you were in a remote village, there was a school. The smallest villages had, even if it was an assembly of yurts or gers, they had a school with a library and a boarding school. So the literacy rate was 98.7 when I went there in 1990, which was higher than the United States by over 2 full percentage points. So, and if you were a herder's wife and you were expecting a child, there would be either a midwife or a OBGYN come visit in a Russian Jeep once a month, and then they would bring you to the local hospital in the province center. So, but of course, they still suffered, like many in Nepal, many rural communities, from high infant mortality rates. But as far as education, that school, there's children in that photo all the way to the left. They're in the middle of the Gobi Desert. It's Hunhungar. It's probably the only school that's not in one of the province centers. They're herders' children, and they study their regular curriculum, and the husband and wife team taught them about classical music and dance. So they've been operating for 15 years, 20 years. And so not violating any child labor laws during summer breaks with their 2 teachers. They'll come and they'll perform for guests at the lodge in the Gobi Desert. But then there's still outposts. But what happened after the Soviet system stopped, there was a mass migration to the capital. So you'll see Ger villages outside of the capital. That's why the population is 1.8 million when it was designed for 600,000. When I went in 1990, it was about 600,000. And so education, everything came under duress, healthcare, all that. But Mongolia's coming along, and I still look at it as an oasis of democracy. It's in the middle of these 2 Russian giants, and of course, economics, they depend on them completely, fuel and hard goods. But pick up your Amazon box and see where the product was made. So we all get a lot of hard goods from China, so they're right next door.
Let's go to the next question. Does anyone else have yes, sir?
Can you just go a little deeper on the healthcare delivery system there? What sort of resources are available? And, do you have foreign medical personnel largely, or you have medical school in the capital?
So in the recent, probably in the last 2 decades, and Mongolia's only been a democracy for 35 years, but in the last decade, it's significant. There's Western hospitals now, which you see in different parts of Asia. And also free travel. So when Mongolians, herding is still strong because the price of meat has gone up significantly. So if you've got 1,000 head of livestock, you're doing okay, but you can only carry so many things in your yurt. But you can afford to send your kids to overseas for medical care if you want to go to Bumrungrad in Thailand, for example, the comprehensive. There's things about medical care there in these Asian models with Western hospitals where you have everything done under one roof, and they've got a hotel there so family can stay there. So Mongolia has intermed now with 2 divisions. So Western care and the level of, yes, General Electric, you've got, MRIs and CT scans and things like that now. And Mongolian dentists are quite amazing.
ConGen, you mentioned that Mongolians eat meat every day, but it's not Mongolian beef. In fact, maybe help us understand a little bit about what dishes are.
Yeah, this afternoon when I had Jalsa, he said one 1919 he visited Mongolia, and he asked the old man, there's a lot of river and fish, and he asked this old guy, do you eat fish? He said, no, we don't need. And also he asked chicken, and he said, we don't need, because we herdsmen, we have the Mongolians, we have this, as I said, 70 million herds we have. Every day we usually eat meat, yeah. Even those Ulaanbaatar capital city, students from countryside come to study in the capital city. Wintertime, all the parents send whole cow, yeah, send them, eat meat, yeah. This is the way of this, the culture is still having a lot of this, connected with the herds, I would say.
That was a great experience. So here, growing up in America, studying everything I could about Mongolian culture. And my father, I was one of the only ones of my peers who spoke Mongolian. He used to say, which means, and he passed away when I was 14. We had a very poor community of immigrants. But the translation is, while you're in the house, you speak Mongolian, because the blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones with the wrong religion will teach you English. So of course, he was infinite. He never saw a classroom. He was a herder's child, and he survived Stalin and Hitler. 2 of my brothers perished in camps in Germany. But he made it to America, and he was bright enough to know that being assimilated was easy, maintaining your culture. So God bless him. Anyway.
Let me ask you something. Talk to me. I'm fairly well-traveled. Mongolia's on my bucket list. Tell me how I would fly from San Francisco to Mongolia. When I arrive to Mongolia, what would I be doing for the next, give me an overview of the next 3 or 4 or 5 days when I arrive and sort of the activities. Because I think a lot of people here are like, I've never thought it. Yeah, we're curious, but we're like, we want to go to Mongolia, but sell us on it.
So when they asked me to promote tourism to Mongolia in 1990, they had less than 100 American visitors a year, and not much more than 100 Westerners from England or Europe. And so I approached educational institutions like Harvard, Stanford. They all laughed at me, because they, waiting on the Russian model. Russia was their model, and InTourist is not exactly the best model for luxury travel or any kind of adventure travel or any. So, but I'm proud to say that we started our first expedition. It took me 2 years to convince people to come, and Harvard and Stanford are still our clients for over 30 years. But the things you'll do is you're going to arrive in the capital. This capital that turned into this modern city. At one point, because of minerals, they had more cranes operating in Ulaanbaatar than they did in Shanghai and Dubai put together. So you'll see this city that's grown up. You'll go to a jazz club, you'll have dinner, and it's just amazing. I would go easy on the sushi because we're landlocked, and so so there's some challenges and there's some things you should be skeptical about. But then we get you out to the countryside. And as I said, if you travel an hour, you're out of the city, and you're going to see clear blue skies. But of course, Ulaanbaatar, you've heard the press. I wouldn't want to whitewash anything. In the winter, because of this burgeoning suburbs of Gers without infrastructure, they'll burn anything they can find if it's cold, and it can get cold in the winter. So it's.
And what's the flight pattern from San Francisco? Where do you go?
So I'm really proud. It's only taken me 35 years. United Airlines is flying to Mongolia now from the United States.
Wow.
So I believe San Francisco and Newark, under our president, would know exact routes, but they start May 1st, and they will fly through Tokyo Narita, which has been a gateway always. But the Japanese government also did a wonderful thing for Mongolia. They allowed Miat Airlines, the Mongolian Airlines, is the only airlines that flies from Tokyo Narita for the last 30 plus years to Mongolia without any reciprocal flights by Japanese airlines. But if they would start ANA or Japan Airlines, they'd have a lot more Japanese tourists because they they trust their own airlines. It's the way it is. But United's coming, so.
All right, we have time for one or two more questions. Does anyone else? Oh, all the way in the back. All right, hold on.
What is Mongolia's national flower?
The national bird is the sacred falcon. The flower, it's not the Siberian iris.
Do any of the Mongolians know what the national flower of Mongolia is? Anyone? There's a few Mongolians in here. Anybody? Edelweiss.
Edelweiss. Yes.
That's 10 points. Nicely done.
Honestly, that's a very good question. But we are so harsh winter we have. Snowstorm. That's why this Mongolian is having this. Okay.
What role does technology play in the nomadic culture today?
That's what technology brings so advanced for Mongols. Even the herdsmen, they have telephone, each other calling. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there was no chance. Because herds go around, you have to follow them, have to look fine. But now it's calling each other. Is my horse over there? Can you look? Yeah. Or the children go after mountain and we have Skype and children have no internet. Sending it, we have the grace of using this Facebook. This is the technology brings Mongolian, especially nomadic life, who is living at distance. It's great support for us.
It's incredible, actually. We tried to, there was a business group. I started the North America Mongolia Business Council in 1990 to host the first presidential visit by a Democratic president in 91. So I prepared. There weren't a lot of members in the beginning, but it ended up with hundreds of members. But we tried to introduce cellular technology in 1991 to the capital at first. But by 1999, Mongolia's cell usage was number 3 per capita in the world. It was behind Finland and the United States. It was incredible. So you'll see herders, you'll be on horseback, you're out in the countryside, and they get a signal, they'll pull out of their del. The del is the traditional costume. They carry a bowl, they have a knife, they have this traditional, we call it the original Swiss Army knife. It's a bowl, and then there's a knife with the chopsticks in it, and the knife, so it's like the original Swiss Army knife. But it also has a sack where you keep camel wool, and it has a metal blade, like a dull blade, and inside you keep flint. So it'll also start a fire for you. So, but they also will then reach in if they've got a signal and pull out a cell phone. And the funniest thing was this: in the early 90s, mid 90s, when they introduced cell, you'll go out into the countryside where there was very weak signal, and you'd see kids, and I said, what the hell are they doing? They're taking their cell phones and they're throwing them in the air. Well, what they would do is to send a message, they would hit send and then throw it into the air to get a signal. And then they would throw it in the air again to catch the message back. And it worked. So I found myself throwing my cell phone up in the air.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Now they've got pretty wide coverage.
We're about to bring our musician back. We're going to set up for him. But you said you had a story about the instrument he's playing.
Well, the Morin, they call it, is the horse head fiddle of Mongolia. And there's a story and a fable behind it. But if you look at that instrument, it's 2 strings. And, traditionally it was horsehair, both the bow and the strings. And now I think it's the bow that still is horsehair, like violins. But the head, the story goes, and there's many versions of it, but there was a young man who had a beautiful stallion that flew and could fly. And he fell in love, and he was in love with this young, beautiful Mongolian young woman, and they were madly in love, and he would visit her. She then moved away to a different province, and he would fly and visit her every night, and then he would come back with his horse. And there was some rich nobleman who was jealous and saw this and cut his horse's head off and killed the horse. So of course he was now mourning the loss of his horse, and he also could not visit the woman he loved. So he would sing about her, and he made an instrument out of took the carcass of the horse and its tail, and so that's how the horse head fiddle. And also, if you notice, it has no frets, and the fingers will sometimes go under the strings and over the strings, which is kind of unique for any kind of fretless stringed instrument. But you heard him create the sounds of nature, like the horse's whinny, and it's just amazing.
All right, I'm going to bring Ujra back. This is the president. I guess this is the brains behind your organization, right? And she's going to tell us what's about to happen here, because you're going to see something that's actually very rare and very cool.
So you're about to hear one of the most amazing sounds of Mongolia that been practiced in Altai Mountains for centuries. So this is a technique of performing arts that's practiced in Tuva in Mongolia called Khoomii or throat singing, where you hear at the same time different tones of voice at the same time. So enjoy.
Thank you. Today I'm going to show you throat singing. There are two kinds of Khoomii. One of them is harkhria. I'm going to show you harkhria. This means harkhria. Another type is isigre.
All right, we have one more amazing performance. We saw the students. Now we're gonna see the teacher. Udra, come up here. Dulo, somebody, tell us what we're about to see.
Actually, one more student. This is Zaya, and she will be performing a dance called Torod Bilge, and it's based on the Torod ethnic minority. So you saw Hotten, and now it's time for Torod. So please enjoy. And it's more of a modern dance because, well, you will see for yourselves, and you'll also listen because the music incorporates beatboxing and some more modern elements with more traditional Mongolian music. Thank you.
We have one final performance. We saw the students. We're about to see the teacher. And then I think Dulo is going to close us out, right? Bravo. The woman who was behind this entire event, who helped us put it all together, her name is Dulo, and she has a few things she wants to say.
No, I don't. I have just a few things to say. Wow. Speaking of tea ceremony of Japan, right? So this is our own Mongolian tea, dance with cups, obviously. It's self-explanatory. But wow, I'm so excited that everyone is here, and I thank you for everyone being here on your random Thursday week evening, and I really, really appreciate it. And also, I want to extend my really, really deep thank you and appreciation for our great speakers, Jalsa with Nomadic Expeditions, and our Consul General of Munkhbaatar for being here and for your very insightful educational conversations. And I hope everyone here learned a little bit about Mongolia and took some new exciting information. And so I also want to thank, of course, my dear friend Human and Nick for putting all this event together with us and celebrating your second anniversary, putting all these amazing events at this Park James Hotel with Silicon Zombie, and many more to come. Yes, and yeah, thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you, Dulo. Real quickly, April 1st, we're going to have Eve Bahar here. April 8th, we're going to do a show on crypto. If you're not on the list, you want to be on the list, come find me. I'll add you to the list. Now, Nick, take us out.
Thank you so much, everybody. Round of applause for ConGen and Jalsa here. If you're interested in more of the best brains, check out siliconzombies.com. And if you took any beautiful pictures or videos, please tag us. And thank you so much. And until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Thank you so much, everybody.